Welcome, viewers. Welcome back to the Manish Tiwari show. My show is about multicultural Britain, the new Britain, and the multicultural players of our lives, people who lead London and the country through whatever they're doing in their life, people who have led change. Like last week, we had the Conservative mayoral candidate, we had politicians. This week, we have someone who works for the NHS, which has assumed a huge importance in our lives since the time the pandemic started. Friends, we have in the coming week on 23rd of March a National Reflection Day since its anniversary of the lockdown. It's 1 year of the lockdown. And in this 1 year, what has made us realize is that NHS is an extremely important part of British institutionalized system. We would not possibly be able to cope up with what's going on, in terms of public health without this great institution. And today we have Dr. Debashish Ghosh, consultant breast and oncoplastic surgeon and clinical lead, Royal Free London and University College London Medical School. Dr. Ghosh, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you for having me today. It's an absolute pleasure to be speaking to you tonight.
Thanks a lot. And I can see that you've come out straight from the operating theater. I've been told that you were operating a few minutes back. So thanks a lot for being here with us, and thanks a lot even more for all the wonderful work you've been doing during the pandemic and in your career to help people suffering from cancer. And Dr. Ghosh, my first observation, rather question, would be, of course, we are going through pandemic, and the virus has affected everyone's life. But cancer has been an equally dreaded word for a long time. And in our lifetime, we have seen that cancer has almost assumed, a proportion of pandemic itself. I mean, 30, 40 years back, it was possibly that you would hear in passing, that someone has got a cancer, or it was not so, would I say, it was not so commonplace. Today in the Western world, in the last decade or so, somehow it has become very widespread, quite common, and not just in the Western world. In fact, in countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and most parts of the world, cancer has become something which people dread. It's become commonplace. And maybe we don't have the answer, but I would still like to ask you what actually has contributed to such a growth. Why there are so many more cancer cases than ever before? Do you have
I
an
think,
answer for that?
uh, I think one of the most important things is people are living longer. So let's face one fact that human beings' lives were built around the fact that they will survive till they were 40, and they would finish their whole purpose of reproducing and go away. But with a fantastic health system, we conquered infectious disease initially, leave aside the pandemic now. Then we conquered cardiovascular disease, and people started living longer. And we saw more and more people getting cancer. And along with that, there's a huge environmental change. So you're getting a lot of people who are in the old age who get cancer. And of late, we are seeing a huge burst of numbers about people who are getting cancer at a younger age. And that's probably related to the environment, the stress in the lives which we lead, the lifestyle. I think these all contribute towards a huge number of increase of cancer in the younger age group. But I would like to make an observation here because we are in the South Asian community and we are looking at it. One of the things we must note that when a population immigrates from a native country to a immigrant country, we take on the incidence of cancer of the native country, but the second generation gets it at least 20 to 30 years younger than their parents. So you probably will see a huge number of cancers in younger patient, second generation patients in the South Asian community. And this is proven across the world. And this is something which is very, very important for our people to understand that we always believe, oh, we never had cancer in India or Pakistan or Bangladesh. We never had that. It's true because overall the lifestyle is such we never got it. We moved to a urban lifestyle, we moved to a toxic lifestyle, environmental changes took place, and we moved to the Western world. So now we have taken on the, but please beware that the second generation is getting it much younger, and it's absolutely proven.
So, exactly. So, I mean, the observation was that if you lived in India, you would never hear that someone has got cancer, let's say, in the Indian villages. I mean, that was unheard of. And like you rightly pointed out, it was something to do with the urban lifestyle. And the possible indication is that the Western lifestyle, which has got a bit more stress, has kind of instigated it, possibly. And what you're telling me is a little bit concerning that when a migrant comes from those countries in the United Kingdom or in a Western country, the chances of the second generation getting a disease like that is a lot more possible at a younger age. So this is something which is disconcerting, but apparently that's a fact. Dr. Ghosh, what has happened during the COVID? So how has the patients living with cancer, how has their life been affected? Do you think there has been support enough in the system to help them to cope with the pandemic and cancer, or was the priority of NHS entirely on the pandemic, and because of that, the cancer patients had to suffer, had to wait longer? What exactly is going on?
So, so for example, I had the breast services of North Central London and East London. So it was very important. So 15th of February last year, we were given the instructions, the pandemic is going to hit us. And we took steps right away from that point. So first of all, we were in contact with Italy, Spain, and China because we wanted to learn from them what were they doing when the pandemic hit. And one thing we all decided across the world, the pandemic will go away, but cancer won't, and won't let our cancer patients suffer. That was our main objective. So we kept our cancer services running all through the pandemic and even now. However, people were too scared to come in. And as a result of this, we saw a huge number of patients presenting to us at very late stage compared to what we have seen last year or the year before. I mean, 2 years before or the years before. So if you, and we actually have, looking at data coming through at this end of this year, we are seeing patients presented much later, presented with much more advanced cancer. People were too scared to take advantage of the NHS, though it was open. And we were very good, and we were pretty good in the NHS in the Londons or south of the country, where we were able to move our cancer services into the private sector. NHS moved to the private sector hospitals. We kept operating. However, there were a large number of patients who failed to access the system, are still out there, too scared to come and see our, in coming to the hospital, too worried about getting COVID, but sitting with large cancers. And I really appeal to all my friends in the community, please do not sit with any symptoms. We are open. COVID will go away. We are nearly conquered COVID, but cancer won't. So please come forward. Anybody who's listening, please do not ignore. That's my message today.
Thanks, Dr. Ghosh, and I would reiterate that anyone who thinks that they have got any symptoms of cancer, please do come forward, go for the screening, get yourself checked, because if it's treated early, it can be actually treated. Dr. Ghosh, so there has been a kind of belief in some communities, and when I say some communities, obviously I'm talking about South Asian communities, in particular the Bangladeshi, Pakistani communities, that if we avoid, if we don't talk about it, if we don't think about it, possibly we can keep cancer away. There's a little bit of what you call denial. And I believe that that's one of the reasons that a lot of people get screened much later, and by the time they seek out medical help, it's possibly too late. What do you think? Is there some? Is that because South Asian culture doesn't take very positively towards early screening, or is there some kind of a taboo within certain communities?
There definitely exists a taboo within our communities, and this is something which we have been working for the last 10 years, and we have been going out to communities spreading this message. First of all, I deal with breast cancer, and that's extremely taboo. Like, people don't want to talk about breast, people don't want to examine their breast, women do not want to even examine their breast, they do not self examine, and they are too scared to discuss amongst their on the dinner table or within the family, with the younger generation, with their husband, with their partners. They really don't, and that leads to, and it's been again in UK, in the within the Asian community, and this is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, all four. Okay, this is not any. So all four, we present at a much more advanced stage, and women present at an older age. They assume that they do not get cancer. They do not examine themselves. They don't check. The grandmother, the grandaunt, they do not want to talk about it. So they, or the mother-in-law, the mother, they don't want to talk about it to their husband, the son, to the daughter-in-law. There's no communication. So and there exists a taboo, and then they feel, oh, if one family member has got cancer, we are stigmatized for life. We are, as a community, we are too worried about any kind of stigma. Even for that matter, the COVID was a huge problem within our community, where people were worried about stigma of getting COVID. And the same goes with cancer. And we have to come out of this problem. We have to accept human beings will be affected, and we say, if you present to us at a late stage, only 10% survive. You present to us at an early stage, we will have a 90% survival. So look at the huge difference. So please come in early, look for the signs and symptoms. Any changes, please come forward.
So, Dr. Ghosh, so my understanding, which is coming out of from this scenario, is that a lot of South Asian communities are reluctant to come forward and go for early treatment, whether it's cancer or even COVID. They want to possibly hide it away. They possibly want to not confront it. And definitely an education needs to be done on that front. What I often keep hearing is that, look, there was no cancer, in India, Pakistan. All this is possibly something which has happened in recent times. And like you rightly pointed out in the beginning of the show, that is because lifestyle has changed, things have changed, stress has seeped into our lives, and we have to face and wake up to the new reality. And the second point you talked about concerning breast cancer, our communities have to wake up to the fact that it's just another part of our anatomy. And as much as we would like to kind of, not be seen flaunting it or but for medical reasons, if it needs to be examined, we need to kind of come forward and do it. Dr. Ghosh, before we get into a small break, do you think there has been enough concerted effort from Public Health England to tackle these issues? Yeah, and once we come back after the break, if we can talk about that, if we can just enlighten us whether Public Health England has been able to kind of proactively address these issues. Thank you very much. We're going to take a short break and we'll be back in a few minutes to talk to Dr. Debashish Ghosh. Thank you. Viewers, welcome back to my show. We have with us in studio today Dr. Debashish Ghosh. Debashish, welcome back to the show. Sir, you are the clinical lead of breast and oncoplasty at the Royal Free Hospital, London. I was going to ask you, breast cancer has become almost like a pandemic itself. Before the COVID pandemic, there was, in the last few years, when this has been recorded, we've seen a surge, a growth. And I'm aware that although it's not much talked about within South Asian communities, it has grown among South Asian communities. There are a lot many more women affected by it. So would you like to tell our viewers what are the signs? How do they need to look at this issue? What they need to do proactively, and we celebrated Women's Day this particular month. What do you think Public Health England should be doing to help people come forward, especially from South Asian communities, to tackle this menace? Would you have any advice for South Asian women, how they need to look at it? When do they need to come forward, get examined? And second phase for Public Health England, what they should be doing so that they encourage women, especially from South Asian communities, to come forward and get themselves examined.
Part of Public Health England, which runs between July to September every year, where we go out in road shows, especially targeting the South Asian community, and we make them aware of breast cancer. There's a breast cancer awareness, and specifically targeted to our Asian communities.
Okay.
And we run ad campaigns, we run regular TV promos, we run road shows in the community centers, we come across to gurdwaras, masjids, temples, we come out there in groups, and different people, including GPs, including surgeons like us, clinical nurse specialists, they go out into the community and educate people, especially people of our South Asian origin, come and speak to our South Asian community and try and encourage them to understand that cancer is curable if picked up in early days. You must look out for signs and symptoms. Please join screening. Please do not ignore any early symptoms. And what are these symptoms? And today, again, I will repeat, which I do every year during these campaigns, look out for a lump. Look out for a lump which may feel like a pea, which may feel like a lemon, or it may feel like a ball. Depends what the size of it. Look for the changes in the skin of your breast. Look for a difference in the size of your breast. Look for anything under your armpit. Look out for any changes under the armpit. Look out for any discharge in your nipples. Look out for blood stain discharge from the nipple. Look out for any itchiness or skin changes around the nipple. Look out for loss of weight. And please remember, men also get breast cancer. Please remember, women must examine their breast once a month, every month, standing in front of the mirror after a bath, same day of the month. This is with all patients every time. If you are self aware, you will pick up breast cancer early, you will be treated early, and believe it or not, you will never have the breast cancer troubling you. This is the main message we like to get across. This is, and please do not be stigmatized. Breast cancer is contagious, and believe it or not, it is in families. Please understand, only 5% of breast cancer runs in families. So please come forward, check yourself, talk about it, do not hide it, bring it out in the open. It is important for the younger generation to speak to the older generation, discuss it, make it an open topic. It is not taboo, it's a part of your body. Examine yourself, do not be ashamed to touch yourself. That's how you will pick it up and treat yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. So I've seen advertising in the past done in languages as well, which is, I think, aimed at reaching out to South Asian women, women from the communities who watch South Asian television. And I've seen ads even in Bengali, in Urdu, in Hindi. So I'm sure Public Health England has made that effort in the past. And of late, I've not seen that. Possibly they have been focused a lot more on pandemic messaging in the last 1 year. So possibly they need to kind of take care of this particular strand of communication as well. Dr. Ghosh, since you also come from a Bengali background and you know Bangla so well, would you like to repeat that message also once in Bengali, because some of the viewers of this particular station are also people from Bangla communities, and it might be really helpful if you can do so, sir.
অ্যাবসলিউট প্লেজার। আমি আমার বন্ধুবান্ধবদের বলতে চাই, দেখুন আমাদের মা বোন মাসি মেয়ে এদের সবাইকে বলতে চাই, দেখুন ব্রেস্ট ক্যান্সার একটা কমপ্লিটলি ট্রিটেবল অসুখ। এটা ছোঁয়াচে রোগ নয়, এটা কারোর জন্য ক্ষতি করবে না। আপনারা যদি আগে এটাকে পরীক্ষা করে জানতে পারেন, তাহলে আপনি কমপ্লিটলি সুস্থ হয়ে বাড়ি ফিরবেন। ট্রিটমেন্ট খুব সামান্য, যদি আগে ধরা পড়া যায় তখন কিমোথেরাপি লাগে না, রেডিওথেরাপি লাগে না, কোনো অসুবিধে হয় না। আপনারা দেখবেন নিজেদের স্বেচ্ছায় নিজেদেরকে চেক করা খুব দরকার। নিজেদের স্তনকে চেক করবেন, কোনো গাঁট, কোনো পিণ্ডকে চেক করবেন, এটা যেন আপনার থাকে। হাত দিয়ে রোজ চেক করা দরকার, মাসে একবার চেক করা দরকার। দেখতে হয় আপনাদের বুক থেকে কোনো ডিসচার্জ বেরোচ্ছে কিনা, কোনো রক্ত বেরোচ্ছে কিনা, আপনাদের বুকের চামড়ার ওপরে বা স্তনের চামড়ার ওপরে কোনো চেঞ্জ আছে কিনা, বা আপনার বগলের তলায় কোনো লাম্প বা গাঁট আছে কিনা। আপনি দেখবেন যে কড়াইশুঁটির ছোট বিচির মতন ছোট গুটি হতে পারে, বা আপনি লেবুর মতন হতে পারে, একটা বলের মতন হতে পারে। দেখুন এরকম যদি আপনারা কখনো খুঁজে পান বা আপনাদের ভেতরে কোনো চেঞ্জ দেখতে পান দুটো স্তনের ভেতরে, তাহলে নিশ্চয়ই আপনি আপনার জিপির কাছে যাবেন, হাসপাতালে যাবেন। আর প্লাস আপনাদের যখন স্ক্রিনিংয়ের জন্য চিঠি আসে, প্লিজ আপনারা স্ক্রিনিংয়ের জন্য রেগুলারলি যান। যদি আপনারা স্ক্রিনিংয়ের সময় আমরা যদি ব্রেস্ট ক্যান্সার ধরতে পারি, 100% কিউরেবল। So that's my message to my Bengali friends.
Thank you, and that was very comprehensive. And you have such a command on Bengali as well. So thank you so much for doing that. I was going to ask you, South Asian families obviously sometimes have a bit of a patriarchal structure. I'm not saying only South Asian families; a lot of families have, and it would be good for the men of the family also to understand things and issues surrounding breast cancer. And what do you think your message would be for men of the family, because they have an important role to play they need to possibly come forward and help tackle this kind of issues. What would you say for the men of the family?
I think you've hit the nail on the head perfectly. So, patriarchal family structures, they feel the wives and the women are there to help run the family and run the kitchen. And if that person is taken out of the picture, who will run those shows? And that is becoming a huge issue where they don't want to encourage their women to go out for the hospital checkup or screening. But please remember, there is no stigma attached if your wife, daughter, mother has got breast cancer. They can be treated, cured, and they can lead a normal life. Young women can have children following cancer. Uh, Elderly women can carry on normal life, and their life will not end part of breast cancer. And breast cancer is just a part of the body. And even if it's your wife or partner who develops breast cancer, we can, and if you very rarely now we take away the whole breast, and if we do take the breast away, we will reconstruct it. So we will give you back a full entire wife. So you will not have a wife who's maimed or amputated in any way. So please understand, please encourage your wife, mother and daughter, daughter-in-law, aunt, any member of your family or friends. If they are worried, please go forwards, come forwards, we will treat you, we will send you back a complete person.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. So, moving on and coming to you as a person, Dr. Ghosh, I feel that your journey also, I mean, I did a little bit of research and your journey is equally inspiring. You been born in India and you've covered a lot of miles, not just in terms of physical miles, but also in terms of your career. And uh, to remind you, of your own journey, I think I have this very famous quote from the actor Shah Rukh Khan in the movie Om Shanti Om. अगर तुम कायनात से कुछ मांगते हो और कायनात से तुम अगर पूरे दिल से कुछ मांगते हो तो कायनात उसे जुटाने में लग जाती है. So that was a movie. I mean, I have not been able to phrase that dialogue perfectly well, but that's a very oft quoted but a very popular dialogue from that movie. And what do you think has been the gift from the Kanat, or what we call it, from the universe to you in this journey? What has truly kept you going, sir?
I think the universe and the divine has been extremely kind, and I think, as you said, अगर आपके ख्वाहिश में शिद्दत हो, पवित्रता हो और दृढ़ता हो, if you have strength, purity, and complete belief in your desires, the universe will turn the whole world upside down to make it come. And I was lucky, I would say, all along, right from my getting into medical school to my getting into postgraduate training into surgery and coming across to UK and reaching the highest point. And I think, I'll be very honest with you, this is the highest point any surgeon can reach in terms of our career. And coming to a country, coming into central London, coming into one of the best hospitals and heading that unit, it's an absolute privilege. Uh, I think it's been a long journey, and I would love all my fellow colleagues or people listening, young people out there. I believe anything is possible. If somebody like can come out from nowhere in Bombay and make it to the top of the ladder in the surgical career. This was a very closed old boys club once upon, and now I'm heading it, a brown man coming from nowhere, and they have treated me equally. I was never felt made to feel inferior in any way, and I want people to take on this as a career and dream. It's very important in life. If you want to have a desire to be fulfilled, you should also have examples to look at. And I always put myself forward, saying, "Look, if I can do it, you can do it too." And I think that if you put your heart to anything, the universe will turn the whole world upside down to make it come true. And I'm telling you, this was my desire and dream right from the very beginning.
Thank you so much, sir. So you are a role model for a lot of people in this country, for a lot of people who study medicine, and a lot of people who want to hit the glass ceiling in their careers, in their lives. And thank you so much for sharing that. It reminds me of a wise man who once advised me that when you're in the mountains, you say a thing and it echoes back. And that's the quality of the mountains, that you say one thing, it echoes back. So if you say, I want to be a great surgeon, it will echo back, you want to be a great surgeon. And if you focus on that one particular thing, you will definitely succeed. But the moment you say multiple things, the echo will become confusing. It will have different sounds, and possibly you would not be able to focus and concentrate on that. So in my understanding, you've been extremely focused. You knew what you wanted. You've put everything, your heart, soul, and your hard work behind that one particular mission to be a great surgeon, and you've been able to reach the heights, and serve the society in the process, serve the British society, serve the people, and serve your community. So thank you very much for sharing that. We'll take a short break now, sir, and we'll come back to talk further to you, Dr. Debashish Ghosh, consultant breast and oncoplastic surgeon and clinical lead at Royal Free London and UCL Medical School. Thank you very much. We'll be back in a few minutes. Viewers, welcome back to the show. We have with us Dr. Debashish Ghosh, who's a lead consultant on breast and oncoplasty. And he's here with us today in the studio. We've been talking to him. Dr. Ghosh, I'd like to ask you about another illustrious man, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who I believe had a big influence in your life. Obviously, viewers, you would know Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam as the ex-president of India, and he was also known as the missile man of India. So, Dr. Ghosh, would you like to share something with the viewers about your relations with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam?
I think I was one of the luckiest people to have had been come into contact with him. So first of all, APJ Kalam was a big hero for all Indians as we were growing up in those days. He was known as a missile. And then he wrote his autobiography called Parvaz, Wings of Fire. And this was narrated by Gulzar. And actually, that dialogue of Om Shanti Om from Shah Rukh Khan was not his, it was from Parvaz. Gulzar had said these words, and he had said it very beautifully, where you said, you send out your desires, it goes out in the universe, comes back as electromagnetic waves, gathers momentum, and makes it true. And this is what APJ Kalam had said. And
so basically, what you're saying it is that Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was actually the scriptwriter of of those lines. And
yes.
All right. Good to know that.
In fact, it probably goes back one further back. So APJ Kalam had gone for his first interview in Delhi for Indian Air Force. Didn't get the first job he went for. And then he was very dejected, depressed, went off to Rishikesh, where he meets one actually a retired doctor who became a monk, Swami Sivanand. And in Swami Sivanand wrote a lot on power and thought power. And these were the sentences which he said to APJ Kalam, which stuck in his mind, and APJ Kalam took it forward. Okay, my journey with him, I kept listening to his autobiography, and once I wrote to him, and he was still president, and he actually replied back to me, and he asked me to come and see him. And I think that was the greatest friendship we started, and we had a good relationship. We always, and he was writing a book called 2020 at that time, and in fact, till the I even last met him the month before he passed away, and we used to have a wonderful discussions, going into late nights, sitting together. What a simple man. I think if you have to say, if I had seen divine man on this earth, he was one of them. He was a scientist, spiritually well advanced, absolutely secular in today's day and age, who respected all communities, religion, and a thinker way ahead of time. And I remember today more so, the last words said to me, he used to call me professor. He said, Professor, remember, vaccine is what will save this world. He kept talking about looking for vaccine for cancer. But these are words of a famous man. These are divine words, I would say. And today, vaccine is saving the world again. This was the word. He said, don't ever forget the importance of vaccine, Devashish. And these were the last words as he was parting. And a month later, he passed away. And today, I think about it. And even if you go back to his book 2020, he writes about vaccine to be promoted in India. And today, India has become the hub for vaccine manufacture for the world. And
Oxford
if you
vaccine.
speak to the people, yeah, and today we are supplying the vaccine to the whole world. And this was something he was leading in part of the planning commission way back then. And I was part of those journeys, I had a chance to speak to him. That thinking process, I can't say how lucky I was.
Thanks a lot for sharing that, and what a revelation! What a revelation! I've read books on Dr. Kalam, and truly remarkable man. He practiced his religion. He was born in a Muslim family in the south of India. He stayed true to his religion, but what respect he had for Indian secular values, and how much deep inside he had even on other religions, including the whole Hindu thought. And that literally shone in his writings, in his interactions. And what a perfect man to lead the country. It's truly remarkable. You can't find another one quite like him. Dr. Kalam is absolutely, a tribute to India, to the highest thoughts of India. And definitely, this is great that you brought out your anecdotes and your interactions with him, because I got an opportunity to talk about this famous man who's not very well known, possibly in the West. Possibly he is not celebrated or not quite revealed in the Western world, because till his entire life was spent in India in doing things for India, for India's poor, and what he did in the education sector is also truly remarkable. Thanks, Dr. Debashish Ghosh. But you ended your note about him talking about vaccination, and his last words to you were about vaccination saving the world. But there seems to be some reluctance in this country, and that's kind of ironic that South Asian men and women are reported, as per research, that they are less likely to take on vaccination for COVID. And then there is another research which points out that Muslim, particularly Islamic, certain section of Islamic society is quite reluctant to take on vaccination. So I don't know where it is coming from, but definitely this doesn't seem to be a step in the right direction because it will hold other parts of the society. And let me be honest, I don't particularly look forward to things like vaccination because end of the day it can be intrusive. But at the same time, when you have a pandemic, when you have to kind of think not just about yourself but the entire society, I can't be a carrier of COVID wherever I go. So I have to safeguard not just my life but also other people's life. So from that perspective, what you'd like to say, what would be your message about vaccination, and what do you think is the challenge here?
So first of all, I have been fully vaccinated, complete both my doses. So vaccine is safe. You must have vaccine. Vaccine does not contain any animal products. Vaccine will not cause you sterility, will not cause you impotency, and you will not suffer as a result of vaccine. These are myths going around. And I must say, there is no reluctance in the Islamic world because Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Dubai, Kuwait, everybody is getting vaccinated left, right, and center. I have got very good friends in Bahrain, in the royal family. They have been implementing the vaccine left, right, and center. Okay, so please, there is nothing in the Islamic world which is against. It's our ignorance, and it is against not only the Islamic world. We have Hindu, Sikh, Christians who are within our. It's our South Asian community. It's our ignorance, and we are scared. We are generally scared people. So we feel we don't want to have it. Even I was scared, believe it or not. I don't like an injection. I don't want to fall ill, and we want to hide under the cover. But come on, guys. We want to go out there. We have had this 1 year of imprisonment. We can't keep going on and on. And the only way we can come out of it is vaccination. And I would please encourage all my friends who are listening to this program, if you haven't been vaccinated, please go and get vaccinated. It is absolutely safe. And please, young people as well, when your turn comes, please get vaccinated. You won't be sterile. You won't become impotent. You won't suffer. You will still have everything. Everything is working fine. Believe it or not, I've completed all my vaccination. And you will not grow a tail as well. Honestly, no tails have grown. It won't grow in the next 10 years as well.
So to put an end to all those conspiracy theorists, definitely there's no tail growing. I've taken the vaccine, and to be honest, I didn't even fall sick even for a minute. It was just like any other thing. Obviously, I'm not there for the culture that everything should be dealt through common solutions for all. Obviously, people have to have the choice to make for themselves. But definitely in this instance, when there's lives of other people involved and lives of a lot of vulnerable people, we need to come forward and do our best so that other people are taken care of, not just us. Dr. Ghosh, would you again like to repeat the last two lines in Bengali, in impeccable Bengali, for the benefit of the
আমার
viewers?
বন্ধুবান্ধবের জন্য ইয়েস অফকোর্স আমার বন্ধুবান্ধবের জন্য যারা বাংলায় শুনছে আমাদের কোভিডেতে আমাদের লোকেরা আমাদের বাঙালিরা আমরা যত জীবন হারিয়েছি এর থেকে বেশি কেউ হারায়নি তাই জন্য আমাদের জন্য ভ্যাকসিন হচ্ছে সবথেকে ইম্পর্ট্যান্ট প্লিজ মনে রাখুন যে ভ্যাকসিনে কোনো পশুর পদার্থ নেই কোনো উল্টোপাল্টা জিনিস মেশানো হয়নি আপনাদের থেকে কোনো ক্ষতি হবে না আর কোনো ইসলাম ধর্মর এগেনস্টে কোনো যায়নি কেন সৌদি আরেবিয়া দুবাই আবুধাবি বাহরেইন কুয়েট সব জায়গায় ভ্যাকসিন দেওয়া হচ্ছে তার মানে এটা অ্যাবসলিউটলি সেফ ভ্যাকসিন থেকে কোনো সাইড এফেক্ট হবে না আপনার কোনো শক্তিতে কম হবে না আপনার স্টেরিলিটি হবে না ইম্পোটেন্সি হবে না আপনি জীবন নর্মালভাবে চালাতে পারবেন আপনি যদি ভ্যাকসিন নেয় আপনি অন্য লোককে রক্ষা করবেন আপনার ফ্যামিলিকে রক্ষা করবেন বাবা মাকে রক্ষা করবেন প্লিজ তাই জন্য ভ্যাকসিন নিন এগিয়ে আসুন
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh, again for that. We're coming towards the end of the show. So my final two questions for you. Sir, you talked about in your career in NHS, you were never mistreated or you never truly faced racism. And I think that's remarkable that the society has changed because we have a lot of anecdotes and a lot of racism in certain sections of British society. And as we all know, the current controversy which about the royal family, there's still lots being talked about, and there's still things which need to be resolved. But it's reassuring that in certain circles, especially in the medical circle, someone like you could climb or could kind of reach the pinnacle in your own career without facing those unwanted issues. In terms of people from Pakistani, Bangladeshi, and Indian communities who who want to pursue higher education but feel marginalized or they don't feel resourceful enough. What is your message for these students? I believe you also act as mentor for some students who are coming from underprivileged parts of the society. What would you like to say for them?
So, first of all, do not be afraid to dream and dream big. You know, सपने देखने के लिए पैसे नहीं लगते हैं. That's the most important thing. You do not need to pay for dreaming. And there is no harm in dreaming with your eyes open, and most of the people who dream with their eyes open make them come true. Believe it or not. That's absolutely important. Be fearless. You can achieve anything in the world. Number one. Number two, I think one of the biggest problems there's about racism is ignorance, because human beings, as such, are unable to look anything who was different and treat differently. And even we, as South Asian, are more racist than anybody else. So look, it is not any white, black, brown, yellow. It doesn't make any difference. Anybody who's different from me is considered different, and he poses a threat to us. If we are able to respect ourselves and if we are fearless ourselves, the opposite person will respect you. This is the most important message young people should have. Do not complain of what you haven't got. You should be able to take away for things and be responsible for your actions. Do not blame who did what. See what you can do for yourself. You are the master of your own destiny. You are the captain of your own ship. Please remember this. These are absolute words which I grew up with. You have to think big. And the most important thing, I run mentorship courses for underprivileged schools. The most important thing is being able to go and interview, being able to, when we are join medicine, and there's a very strong interview. So I get people to come shadow me in the hospitals. I teach them how to interview into these medical schools, universities. And that's very important for us. Because I suppose, many times everybody doesn't have the privilege of growing in families where your parents can coach you, or you have uncles, aunts, who or friends who will be able to coach you. But the most important is to get out of the little boundaries we have created. Think big, grow big, come out, interact. Believe it or not, the world is an oyster.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ghosh. So we'll end our interview today on that note. The world is your oyster. And when you were talking, it reminded me of Vivekananda's message, which when he came to the West, and in those days, we didn't talk about racism. We talked about bringing the change and bringing the change from ourselves, from our own light, and not just necessarily finding a political issue in everything. So there needs to be a balancing. Of course, we need to tackle issues, but we also need to see the change and bring the change in ourselves. Thank you very much for that. It was an absolute pleasure to speak to you, sir. And my regards for coming on my show today. Viewers will be back again next Saturday at 4 p.m. for the next episode of the Manish Tiwari Show. Thank you very much.